The evidence seems to indicate that you're watching Dolly Vision.
Shadows crawl. People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King of Peace. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost souls shouting echoes in the night. Mock the truth while live on their light. Up, Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene flash that feels so unreal. YouTube madness like shares of fly. Jacks on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby? And shadows crawl. People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King of Peace. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost souls shouting echoes in the night. Mock the truth while live on their light.
What is up, guys? It is good to see each and every one of you jumping in the room late night. Okay, I know Dolly's a little late tonight. Usually I do my show at 10 p.m., but, you know, it's a little past 12 now. I had to do Turtle Island tonight, so I had, you know, Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm a little occupied around the 10 o'clock time, and I'm usually here. So, but I'm here. It's late night. There ain't as many of you here. So the people that are here, do me a solid. Leave your DNA on that like button. And if you're super cool, share this on your Facebook, all that good stuff. And if you're brand new, if you've never seen my ugly ass face before, I'm Dolly. Make sure you sub up, ring that bell for notifications. Help us hit 60,000 people. I can't do it without the help of each and every one of you. So anyway, last night we really wasn't even talking about the West Memphis Three. We were talking about the Delphi murders, and somebody brought up the West Memphis Three and completely triggered me. Okay. Like I just flew off the handle, stopped talking about Delphi, and just went into thinking how guilty these people were. So I told you guys I would do a little research today, pull up different video clips to show you why I thought these people were guilty. So when I was looking for these video clips, I ran across a channel called Burn After Reading. Okay, it's a smaller channel. It has 2,700 subscribers, but every detail that I wanted to bring to you guys, this guy spoke on. And I was thinking, well, hell, if he has the dates, the people, the times, and he goes into months before the murders even occurred on the information about Damien, Jessie, and Jason, right? I was like, well, I'll just share his video. So if you get a chance, give me a second. I'm going to pop this video up on the screen. Share screen. All right, let's share this. Make sure I got the audio on. And let me pull it up. And this channel is called, this video is called The West Memphis Three Guilty. All right, just as simple as that. And the channel is Burn After Reading. Now, this dude, he was very detailed in his description. He goes over the 3-part docuseries Paradise Lost and things that they didn't cover in that documentary. Because, you know, I'm one of those people that believe the West Memphis Three are guilty. And I could give you 1,000 reasons, but I'm going to let you listen to this guy tell it, and I'm just going to do a little bit of commentary over it. You know, things I agree with, some of the things I may disagree with him on. But basically, the man that did this video, his he had about the same thoughts that I had, that HBO, that in the beginning they sat with him for a few minutes and they thought he was innocent just from that few minutes that they spent with him. Dolly, I've been covering this for 6 years. Yeah, I've been into the Delphi shit since I was a kid. Okay, not the Delphi stuff, but the West Memphis Three, right? One of my best friends, rest in peace to him, Keith Chapman, he was murdered on Christmas. He was a West Memphis Three supporter, and we were in 2 different metal bands at the time, right? And, you know, we're touring the country, and, you know, behind the scenes, me and him would argue about the West Memphis Three all day long because he was a supporter of them. He believed that they were completely innocent, to where me, you know, I'm thinking, hey, Marilyn Manson ain't helping you unless you're the devil. All right. So we're going to play a little bit of his video, this video right here, and I'm going to do a little commentary over it. But he was so good about the dates and the times, how many times they confessed, where they confessed at, who they confessed to. I was like, okay, I could just write all this down and deliver it to you guys, but why not give this man the credit for doing all the hard work, putting all the dates together, putting all the information together. And it saves me a hellacious amount of time, to be honest with you. So let's jump right into it. Let me make sure it's backed up. And like I said, the video itself is titled The West Memphis Three Guilty, because there's so many supporters that, you know, still to this day run with they're innocent. And I've never, ever believed that.
Hello,
right,
everyone. I only
right after this Donald Trump commercial. Okay. I should have put it on my other YouTube.
You're seeing Skechers' famous.
Okay, 2 commercials. Okay, we might have to switch up this to my other YouTube real fast. Hold on. Let me do that so we don't have to watch commercials, okay? Because commercials suck. Let me copy that. Let me open it here. And this way we don't have commercials because I pay for premium on this other channel. Okay, here we go. Let's pop that up. We need a colossal popcorn. Get your popcorn out.
On the evening of May 5th, 1993, 3 8-year-old boys, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, were reported missing in West Memphis, Arkansas. It was reported they were last spotted headed towards Robin Hood Hills, a small patch of woods in the area. To get there, the kids would pass through a dead-end street, walk the pipe bridge that crossed the 10-mile bayou, and head towards the path into the woods. Fear and panic struck the families who wondered where their children were. They, along with volunteers, searched the area into the wee hours of the night. The next day at around 8 a.m., police canvassed West Memphis, but focused mostly on Robin Hood Hills. That afternoon, the worst fears would be realized. Stevie, Michael, and Christopher were discovered in a ditch.
Well, of course, you know, if you're the boy's father, they've been in that house. They're going to have DNA from that house. There's going to be transferable DNA. Okay, so if you're just curious of what I think about it, it's just like if you was in my house, right, and you left my house, there's a possibility that you could have my DNA on you. Okay, you could have my hair, you could have my pet's hair. You know, you play with my kids. There's transferable DNA. It's a real thing. Look it up. Okay, read Exhibit 500 about Damien. Yeah, we're going to he gets right into the Damien. He goes over Jessie Misskelley first and his confessions. Okay. But he does this in 3 parts. The first part is Jessie Misskelley. The second part is Damien. And then the third part is Jason. And he goes over the Alex Crowley stuff. He goes over everything that I was talking about last night. So if you didn't see my video lab last night, I went over a lot of this stuff of why I thought they were guilty. You know, innocent people don't say certain things. Like he said that he always knew that people would know his name and that, you know, kids would be looking under the bed and that he would be known as the West Memphis boogeyman, right? Innocent people don't say that. A lot of people thought Jessie Misskelley was, you know, slow. Okay. And they used the word you know, the word. Okay. They use that word, but that's not the case. Basically, he wasn't that. He was just a high school dropout. He didn't go to school. He didn't apply himself. So he's not the smartest person, but he understands wrong from right. And multiple times did Jessie Misskelley lie. Okay. And he actually lied and was trying to throw the police off the trail. So he understood completely what was going on. And a lot of that in Paradise Lost saying they didn't read him as Miranda rights. It's just all lies. They did. But HBO back in the day, they painted this picture like they were innocent because, you know, there was people from the Innocent Project that was involved. You had Johnny Depp, the Dixie Chicks, Marilyn Manson, Eddie Vedder, and all these people pumping millions of dollars into his legal fund. And of course, you know, with that type of money, you can get anybody free. Okay. Look at Karen Reed. Okay. And just for instance that, you know, look at OJ. Okay. Look at OJ Simpson. He pretty much bought his freedom. He went in there with high dollar lawyers. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. This is basically, these 3 young men were given fair trials. Okay. Damien Echols, he lied. Everything that came out his mouth was a lie. But we're going to get into that. I don't want to jump too far ahead because this guy does a really good job of explaining every detail before the murders happen, right? That makes you think, okay, well, these people, these kids had some problems, and it ain't the police making it up.
Submerged in muddy water. They had been stripped naked and hogtied with their own shoelaces. Their small bodies were mutilated. Most of their clothes were discovered turned inside out, pinned down by sticks in the muddy ditch bed. The discovery rocked West Memphis. Police investigated as they checked truckers' logs, sex offender registries, questioned numerous people, which included a pair of young men who left the state for California shortly after. But on June 3rd, the investigation would lead to an arrest of 3 teenagers: Jessie Misskelley, Jason Baldwin, and Damien.
Wade Wilson. That dude has some crazy ass face tattoos, don't he? I've been watching the story. I haven't done much covering on his case. That is a weird ass looking dude. I don't know what, you know right there, you ain't never getting a job and you spending the rest of your life in prison.
Damien Echols. They were infamously known as the West Memphis Three. Jessie confessed to the crime, also implicating Damien, who was heavily into the occult, and his best friend Jason. In February of 1994, Jessie was found guilty of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. He would get 40 years. The following month, Damien and Jason were found guilty on 3 counts of murder. Jason would receive a life sentence, and Damien was sentenced to death.
Yeah, he got the death penalty.
After the conviction, the West Memphis Three eventually became icons of an innocence movement. It started in 1996 with HBO's Paradise Lost, the childhood murders at Robin Hood Hills.
See, I blame a lot of this on HBO. Okay. I hate to say it because I used to love HBO. Oz. Remember the show Oz on HBO? I used to watch so many documentaries and Hookers at the Point, all kinds of shit on HBO, right? And I just, when HBO painted this picture of them, they painted this like these kids were railroaded. They were just some metalheads and they look different and they're in this Christian place. And that's why they prosecuted them. But they didn't go over all the stuff from Echo's psychiatrist, him drinking blood, him talking about killing kids would make you powerful. The younger, the more pure, the better, right? And listen, there's a lot of these weirdos, you know, that say these types of things. You remember Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where they were drinking the adrenochrome tears of scared kids because it gave them power, right? So this has been going on in the occult world for a hot minute. Aleister Crowley talking about killing kids, and they're going to get into this because, you know, Damien says he don't know too much about Aleister Crowley, and he goes, well, you know, Aleister Crowley believed if you killed kids, it would give you power. And then Damien says, well, he also thought he was a god. But just a second ago, you said you didn't know nothing about this man. But when they pulled writings out of his jail cell, he had his name on the paper, his daughter's name on the paper, and Aleister Crowley's name on the paper. Okay, so it shows you there he was into the occult. And when he gets up on the stand, you know, they're saying, hey, you was this white gray witch because that's what he is. But his girlfriend said he was into black magic, right? And people think this ain't real. This is absolutely real. There's people that really believe this shit. There's a general in the United States Army that is an open, well, he ain't no more, but he was an open Satanist. Okay. He had the curly ass eyebrows. PJ knows his name. I forget his name right off the top of my head. But he has the craziest eyebrows in the world.
And it eventually became a movement that assembled a large following that included popular entertainers like Johnny Depp, the Dixie Chicks, Eddie Vedder, Peter Jackson, and many more. The narrative goes, the West Memphis Three were poor, misunderstood outcasts in a modern-day Salem because they dressed in black, listened to Metallica, and read Stephen King novels. They were singled out and railroaded by the law enforcement and judicial system because they needed scapegoats to end the demand for justice from the pitchfork villagers of a Puritan southern town who suffered from satanic panic. Meanwhile, the real killer or killers were still out there.
No.
The narrative was later echoed by others such as author Mara Leverett and podcaster Bob Ruff and many more. The thing is, perception isn't always reality. The narrative set out and absorbed by the audience is very much a fiction.
3 teenage boys killed 3 little kids is how it went down. It wasn't 3 grown men. They were teenage boys at the time that they committed these horrible murders of these 3 boys you see on the screen. Okay. The 3 dudes behind me, Damien, Jessie Misskelley, Jason Baldwin, they are the ones that I say murdered these 3 boys. Right now, they're actually free. They're walking the streets right now. Damien is he's writing books on the occult as we speak. He basically got up in court and committed perjury. He said he didn't do this, that he wasn't into these things. And then now he got out. He's done interviews of what magic, spells that he was doing while he was in prison to help him get through this. So all these things he says are just lies. So if you got up in court lying, why would you be in court lying? Because basically you're a killer. Okay. So the justice system is horribly broke. Okay. So they said they were innocent in court, but they believed that the court had enough evidence to convict them. So they took an Alfred plea and they were released from prison. All right. Which means they're guilty. They were found guilty, but they were released. And this shit is insane. When it happened, I didn't even know what an Alfred plea was. Okay. I was like, Alfred plea? What the hell is this? Right. And next thing you know, they're having an emergency court hearing and they're being released from prison. 3 child killers. All right. So it blew my mind. And this is, when somebody brought it up last night, it totally triggered me. Right. And I was just thinking, because so many people believe these people are innocent because they watched this HBO show. Right. And HBO convinced you like, hey, they're innocent. Right. But they didn't know the backstory. They didn't know the stuff about the psychiatrist saying that he wanted to kill kids. He wanted to drink their blood. He threatened to kill his baby if it was a girl. Right. This dude was a loon. He tried to commit suicide. A lot of things. Right. He was stalking people. He was threatening other kids. Jessie Misskelley punched a girl in the face. Right. Like hit her in the head with a rock. And this was a 6-year-old little girl. There's some things that go on that make you think, okay, these dudes are guilty as shit. Even in snippets of Paradise Lost, they still couldn't hold it together because Jason Baldwin was trying to separate from them. And he was just like, we ain't going to be friends after this, right? They were basically, because they didn't want Jason to even say anything, because if he did, it incriminated Damien, right? So it was a mix of things, but we're going to go over that. I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Even I, like many others, bought into their innocence, but my perception changed when I researched the case.
And him and his girlfriend, they had a suicide pact. Okay. It like totally, Romeo, Juliet type shit. But he did. If his daughter was a girl, he wanted to sacrifice her. Okay. If it was a girl. This dude is a strange guy. He is definitely strange. He's definitely been a Satanist for a good, he says a white and gray witch, but I say, bro, you a Satanist. You're a monster. You kill kids, and not only killed the kids, but sexually assaulted. He knew information about the kids being cut, one kid being cut up worse than the other, thrown in the water. He knew information about the crimes that had not been released. Okay. HBO don't tell you all that shit, right? How did he know all this stuff? Right. Why was he lying in court? We're going to get to all of it. This dude does a really good job of breaking it down. Dates, times, the confessions, the things that didn't make sense, what he was lying about. He goes over everything. So like I said, this channel is called Burn After Reading. So make sure you sub them up. Tell them Dolly sent you.
Itself. After long hours of exhausted reading reports, police interviews, court transcripts, appeals, lab reports, and so on, I realized I was duped. I was angry about that. I was tricked by clever filmmakers and a multi-million-dollar post-conviction legal team defense. And let's not forget the Innocence Project, who was co-founded by a man who helped set O.J. Simpson free. This episode will cover Jason, Jessie, and Damien in separate segments.
Okay. Now the boys they did find signs of bodily fluid on the boys. They also peed in their mouths. Okay. Inside the boys at autopsy, they found urine inside these boys. Okay. This is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. And these people knew about it, right? And it hadn't been released on the news. It hadn't been released in the paper. And he knew things that only the criminal or the people involved in this could have knew. That's simple as that. There's no other way he could have possibly knew it unless he was there.
And so with that, let's get on with it. On June 3rd of 1993, Jessie Misskelley Jr. was brought into the West Memphis police station at 10 a.m. for questioning. Jessie knew Damien Echols, who was suspected of being involved in the murders of Stevie, Christopher, and Michael, and the police were questioning anyone who knew him.
At the time, they had threw the bodies into the water, right? The bodies had been rinsed, tied up with their shoelaces. Okay, so the DNA had washed away. And at the time that this happened, they didn't have a whole lot of good technology for DNA. Okay, but it still don't explain how Damien knew what had happened at the scene of the crime without being there. Okay, he's not psychic. Okay, maybe he's Wiccan or witch, white witch, gray witch, black witch, but he had no way of knowing, and he knew, right? Things that only the killer could have known. And he got up in court and lied so much, and you're going to hear about those lies. And Jessie Misskelley, he confessed 6 different times. He confessed to the police, he confessed to the prosecutor, he confessed to his lawyer, right? So he was confessing, and then he would recant his confessions, right? He would tell and then be like, oh no, and then he would add just a little bit more and a little bit more, and he knew details that only the killers would know.
Jessie wasn't the first to be interviewed, nor was he considered a suspect at the time. Now, before we get into that, let's address some misconceptions that is very popular in this West Memphis Three advocate community. It is believed that Jessie had a lack of due process and wasn't read his Miranda rights. An example given is from a musician and actor named Henry Rollins, who told...
His name ain't Rollins, it's Rollins. It's Henry Rollins. That is who, I'm a liar. That is who Henry Rollins is, okay? He's a big muscle-bound dude. He's been in a couple movies, too.
A radio interviewer in 2003, and I quote, "What was really interesting to me was the lack of due process that the 3 boys incarcerated did not enjoy, and the lack of Miranda rights read to Jessie Misskelley." And I went...
They didn't feed him those things, and they definitely didn't feed those things to Damien. Damien openly in court says he said those things, right? Damien, you'll hear what Damien said in court. He openly said these things. Nobody fed them that information. That's some HBO shit right there. Okay. That's that $1 million director. That's that really good documentary, but the truth is the truth. And when you go back and you hear what his psychiatrist said, what, the police were saying that he told them, you may have a different concept in your mind after you hear some of this.
Wow, that's not the way Americans should be treated. So You see, inaccuracies like that are thrown into the echo chamber all the time in that West Memphis 3 community, and it drives me nuts. So before we get into Jessie's interview and interrogation, let's go over some facts about how Jessie's rights were not violated and that the West Memphis Police Department did it by the book. So number one, Jessie's father, Jessie Misskelley Jr., spoke with Sergeant Mike Allen at 9:45 a.m. and again at 11:15 a.m. about the interview. Allen actually talked to Jessie Sr. first in the morning. Jessie Sr.
Yeah, he was drinking whiskey. He threw the bottle on the bridge, broke the bottle. They went out there. They found the bottle of whiskey. So the lab is absolutely right. You're absolutely right about what you're saying.
Then drove off and retrieved Jessie Jr. Then Allen and Jessie Jr. drove to the police station at 11:15 a.m. Jessie Sr. signed a waiver allowing police to give Jessie Jr. a polygraph exam. Number two, West Memphis police did in fact inform Jessie Jr. of his rights. Sergeant Allen read Misskelley his legal rights at around 11 a.m. and Misskelley initialed and signed a rights form. Detective Durham advised Misskelley of his rights again at 11:30 a.m. before conducting the polygraph exam, and Misskelley again initialed and signed a rights form. Now, the second form is not available online, but it was discussed and entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 11 during a court hearing on January 13th, 1994. At the beginning of the first tape-recorded confession, police again reminded Misskelley of his legal rights and reviewed and signed the rights form. So there you go. And number three, Jessie Jr. did in fact understand his legal rights because he was in fact in legal trouble before. Jessie Jr.'s lawyers tried claiming that Misskelley was incapable of reading or understanding his legal rights.
The YouTube creator that is talking is Burn After Reading Live. Okay. That's who we're listening to, which, you know, I was trying to put all this together today and I ran across his video when I was getting the clips and things. And I was like, wow, this dude did an excellent job. Like perfect. Like I couldn't have did it better myself. Right. All this information I knew, but he had the dates, the times, how many times they confess. I mean, he had every detail to it. So I was just like, okay, I'll just play this guy's video and he can bring it to you probably even better than I could. Right. So he did a really good job on putting this information together.
And thus that his June 3rd, 1993 confession should be thrown out. Prosecutors countered that Misskelley had extensive experience dealing with
that is true. There was witnesses that seen him leaving the crime, but they thought it was him and his girlfriend because they were covered in mud. But Jason Baldwin looks like his girlfriend because they got that crazy ass curly hair. So what people thought was it was Damien and his girlfriend by the crime scene, but it wasn't. It was Damien and Jason Baldwin that they mistaked as a girl.
Enforcement officials before June 1993, and that Misskelley had been Mirandaized and signed legal rights waivers on 4 previous occasions. Now that we have that factual understanding, let's move on. According to notes made by detectives Mike Allen and Brian Ridge, Jessie stated that he worked as a roofer on the day of the murders. After work, Jessie claimed that he went home and stayed home for the night. An interesting statement since he claimed later he was out of town wrestling at some event. This was the first of many inconsistent alibis made by Jessie or for Jessie. Jessie told the detectives that he had heard a rumor that Damien Echols and Robert Birch killed Michael Moore, Stevie Branch, and Christopher Byers. He said he didn't know Birch very well, but he knew Damien. He introduced Damien to Vicky Hutchinson. He went on to describe Damien's close relationship with Jason Baldwin. He said that they were always together and that Damien also had a pregnant girlfriend named Dominique Tier. Jessie also said that he always saw Damien at the local skating rink with friends Jason and another kid named Carl Smith. Jessie attempted to distance himself from Damien by calling him sick and that he drank or licked human blood. He made inconsistent statements about the last time he met or spoke.
Now listen, now Jessie Misskelley is not the only person that's going to say that he liked to drink human blood. You're going to hear multiple people say that Damien liked to drink human blood. Now, I don't know what normal person sits around drinking blood unless you a damn vampire, but you know, he does.
To Damien. In one statement, he claimed it was 3 weeks. In another, it was 2 months. Suspicion started to mount on Jessie. Jessie was asked if he'd take a polygraph test, and he agreed. I mean, what could he say, right? If he says no, he looks suspicious. But then he thinks, maybe I can beat it. Now, after the polygraph test was conducted, Bill Durham told Brian Ridge and Chief Inspector Gary Gitchell that Jessie was lying.
You're absolutely right there too, Lab. He was in the mental hospital. Somebody had slit their wrist and he drinks their blood, you know, and tells them he's a vampire and all kinds of damn shit, right? HBO didn't convince me. They didn't convince me either, right? Because I just knew. Thank you, Dolly, for your time and research to share this case and true facts. Can I have a seat on the Turtle Gang train? Definitely jump all aboard, right? All aboard. Put your seatbelts on because this is a crazy. And listen, let me give you some trigger warnings. It gets pretty graphic about what happened to these kids and what they say happened. I'm talking about everything from cutting off the boys' private parts to urinating in their mouths and like this has been backed by the coroner. Okay. The coroner said these things. And at the time that Damien was saying these things about, you know, one was cut up worse than the other. This had not been released to the press, that one body was farther away than the other bodies because one kid ran, and Jessie Misskelley, the one that says he didn't kill nobody, he ran that boy down. He said it in his confession that he ran him down and he drug him back to Damien and Jason while they were sexually assaulting the boys, taking turns on the little boys, is what he said. It's graphic, guys. It's really, if you've never heard of the West Memphis Three case, this is an older case, but it is a horrific case where a lot of celebrities put up a lot of money to help child killers, okay, without doing the right type of research, without going back, you know, listening to this dude. He was homicidal, he was suicidal, and he was stalking people, and he had planned on hurting people, right? It was just a matter of time before he did this, and eventually these crimes happened and they were brought to justice and they were given a fair trial, which I believe, right? But then, you know, you add $100 million to it. Next thing you know, the parents of the dead kids are wearing free West Memphis Three shirts. And it is disgusting because how could you sell your kid out? You could have $100 million. You hurt my kid, I would never in my life put your t-shirt on. Okay. You would never in the world see me wearing a West Memphis Three shirt. That's one thing that I think is the worst crime in the world. And that is hurting kids. Okay. It's bad to hurt adults too, right? But there is no crime more horrible than murdering a child for nothing, right? For nothing.
His ass off. Now, I want to share my opinion that I don't find polygraphs very reliable. It's a big reason why they're not admissible in court. Still, it's an investigative tool, and sometimes the psychology that comes from it can help elicit a response. However, guilty people have passed polygraphs and innocent people have failed them, so I'm not using them as any kind of proof, but I will report on them as we go along, just to be fair. The detectives pushed harder, believing Jessie wasn't being truthful with them. They showed Jessie a photo of one of the boys on an autopsy table just to get a response, and they played a tape recording of a boy who eerily said, "Nobody knows what happened but me." The boy on the recording was Aaron Hutchinson, an 8-year-old boy who Jessie babysat for and who was friends with the 3 murder victims, and also was the son of Vicky Hutchinson. I don't want to get too off topic, but I felt Vicky, for the most part, played an unhelpful role in the investigation along with her son, something we'll discuss in later episodes. However, this recording was powerful because as far as Jessie knew, Aaron could have witnessed everything without knowing it at the time. Instead of being confused or appalled by the recording and professing his innocence, Jessie instead broke down crying and confirmed he was present during the murders. Jessie was
So
interrogated.
once that little boy, he heard the audio of the little boy saying, only me knows who done this. He, instead of saying, hey, I don't know nothing about that, he starts crying and starts saying, hey, I was at the murder scene. Okay. Now, some people say, you know, that these police made him, nobody made him do that. Nobody was beating on him. It is recorded. The audio tapes are recorded of him confessing. You didn't hear nobody hitting on him or, you know, abusing him or anything like that. He freely gave this information. Now, he did give some wrong information, but he was trying to throw the police off. And, you know, he was trying to distance himself from the actual crimes that, you know, Jason and Damien did it. I was just there. And while they were doing this to these boys, I left. Okay. He did leave. He truly did leave, but you were there. You know, if you hadn't chased down the one little boy and drug him back, he would, you know, he might have got away. He would have went and told on y'all, and y'all would have went to prison for real and without no shadow of a doubt. But you was able to catch that little boy and drag him back to be murdered. And if you're just tuning in, we're watching a channel called Burn After Reading Live. Okay.
Interrogated for about 2 hours before confessing, and not the 12 hours as claimed by the filmmakers of the Paradise Lost series, or even the Innocence Project. They get it wrong on their website, showing they must be getting their information from unreliable sources. But I digress. Jessie arrived at the station at 10 a.m. and confessed at 2:20 p.m. Only a little over 2 hours of that time was actual interrogation.
Yeah, I mean, on Paradise Lost, they said they interrogated him for 12 hours. That they never read him his Miranda rights. So Paradise Lost was just giving bullshit information. HBO, terrible, terrible.
Jessie was initially vague and incorrect about a lot of details in his first confession. He even lied multiple times about the timing of the murders, about how the boys were tied and how they died. West Memphis Three supporters in the defense would use this to prove Jessie was coerced into a confession. But look, the initial lies here were not due to that. Jessie had a reason to lie, and he explained so several times, and we will get into that later. For now,
yes, Jessie took part. He actually grabbed the boys and drug them back there in the beginning because they were hiding in the bushes. Damien went up to the boys, and then the boys tried to fight. They get their friend loose. When he grabbed one of the boys, the little boys tried to fight back. And then they jumped out the bushes, Jason and Jessie, and they drugged them back into the woods. Now, one boy still ran, and Jessie Misskelley ran him down. That's why he was charged with the murders too, because he basically was accessory to the murders. Even though he didn't kill them, he assisted in the murders of them. Okay. And that is Jessie Misskelley that you're seeing on the screen.
let me address some of the things that he got wrong and some of the things that he got right. In his first recorded statement, Misskelley initially said that he met Damien and Jason at 9 a.m. Later, he said that the killings took place around noon and that the three victims had skipped school that day. In the second recorded statement, Misskelley changed the time to 5
It didn't, because the boys went to school. It was after 5:30.
or 6, then changed it again to 7 or 8, then added, I remember it was starting to get dark. In fact, all three victims attended school that day and were last seen alive.
Yes, Michael Moore is the little boy that was ran down. Yep. Yeah, you know, you must have been watching. You know, this whole I've been watching. We're probably about the same, close to the same age there at the lab. You may be a little younger than me, but you know, I remember when all this happened. I was a little metalhead kid, just like them, listening to Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Overkill. I mean, DRI. I mean, you name it. That was my world, right? But I was never a satanic kid. Like, I've always known stuff from, you know, even though I listened to some of these satanic bands, so-called satanic bands, I always knew it was just entertainment, right? I didn't take it for, you know, what they were saying. I just liked the music itself, the drumming, the riffs, the heaviness of it. Burn after read and learn from my channel. Okay, all right. Makes sense then.
6:30 p.m. Misskelley described seeing Baldwin or Echols kill Byers the Byers boy by choking him with a large stick. The autopsy showed no evidence of choking. In his second recorded statement, Misskelley said that Damien and Jason tied up the 3 victims with brown rope. No brown rope was used to tie the boys. The victims were actually tied up by their own shoelaces. Misskelley repeatedly tried to end his story by claiming, "And then I left," only to continue recounting what happened next. Now, Misskelley
All 3 of them were deceased when they were found. None of them were alive.
said he saw Baldwin and Echols anally raping the Byers and Branch boys, but the autopsy couldn't definitively conclude that despite the dilation, so it can't be 100% conclusive. There was possible evidence of semen present on the clothing of one of the victims, but the water ditch had destroyed much of the DNA evidence. It's most likely some sexual assault took place, but it may not have involved anal rape, or maybe it did, it's inconclusive. Now, Misskelley confessed to chasing down Michael Moore, who was trying to escape, and bringing him back to the scene.
I mean, my days when I was a kid, I was a young metalhead thrasher. So that's just the type of stuff that I was into. So when this case happened and they were like, metalheads being, satanic panic and shit, right? I was in that world. This is what, and nobody singled me out. I had long hair, I basically, like, you see little skater kids now, that's how I dressed 30 some years ago, 40 years ago, right? It's like the fashion comes back, with the flipped up suicidal hat, you know what I'm saying? That was just my style. I still kind of have a little bit similar style to when I was a kid, and it's, I don't know. I just knew inside as a young man that, listen, I had friends that really believed, when they listened to Slayer and Morbid Angel and Death, the Philosopher and stuff like that, they really kind of got into that stuff. Like, some of them were, when I was a kid, were saying they were satanic. Now everybody's grown. They're like, oh, we're atheists. We ain't satanic. They grew up out of that. But as teenagers, they were, they were doing, had the damn satanic Bible and, just believing all this shit. But me, it's never been more than entertainment to me, right? I don't worship the devil. I may listen to some of that music, because that's what was in then, like that's what people were doing, skateboarding and BMX biking and listening to all this thrash and death metal and, shit like Cannibal Corpse. And I could go on and on with these bands, right? There's a ton of them.
Crime, a statement that would be relevant since Moore was discovered farther away from Byers and Branch, a detail not known publicly at the time. Misskelley correctly identified which boy had been cut on his face, that was Branch, which boy had been cut on his groin, that was Byers, and which boy had not been cut at all, and that was Moore.
Now, how would Jessie Misskelley, how would he know that? Which boys have been cut where? Unless you were at the crime scene. These are things that wasn't released to the public. These things wasn't released in the media, but he confessed that the one boy was cut on the face, the other boy was cut on the groin, and the one that he chased down wasn't cut at all, right? How did he know that, right? Without being at the crime scene.
There were widespread rumors that one victim was sexually mutilated. However, the details of each victim's injuries had not been made public at that time. After Jesse's confession, he would be arrested along with Damien and Jason, and they were charged with the murders of Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore. As stated in the last episode, Jessie would be tried separately from Damien and Jason.
It's on audio, right? It's recorded. There's nowhere in the recording the police told him to say that. I've listened to the audio myself. There's nowhere in it. You can say suggestive interrogation, but the police never told him where the boys were cut, who was cut, what was cut. Never. Okay. That is things that could only be known by somebody that was there.
Jason. Jessie would recant his confession. The West Memphis Three pled not guilty. And since there was a worry that the case would be branded as an example of satanic panic, the trial was moved over an hour away to Corning, Arkansas, in order to give a better shot at seating, fair and unbiased juries for Jessie. And then it'll be Jonesboro for Damien and Jason. So on February 5th, 1994, Misskelley was convicted by a jury of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. The court sentenced him to life plus 40 years in prison. So after conviction, something interesting happened. Deputy John Moody wrote a letter to Chief Inspector Gary Gitchell. I'll try to read this the best that I can, but the writing it's just not exactly well written. But I'll do my best to read it clearly. Maybe even try to clean up some of the grammar mistakes. I'll do my best. So the letter reads, on the afternoon of February 4th, 1994, Deputy James Lindsay and myself were transporting Jessie Misskelley to the Arkansas Department of Corrections at Pine Bluff. Jessie was asked if there was anything he wanted to say, and after being assured we would not use anything he said against him in court, he chose to talk. Jessie advised he had received a call from Jason Baldwin asking him if he wanted to go to West Memphis to get some girls. Jessie, Damien, and Jason met at a local road on May 5th, sometime that evening. Jessie claimed that he had been drinking Evan Williams whiskey that Mrs. Hutchinson had bought him, and Jason and Damien, they were drinking beer. It was also stated that they had smoked 2 marijuana joints that afternoon. Jessie said that he had known Jason Baldwin since the 6th grade and did not know Damien that well. But
you're right. He does look like somebody that would wear Brute cologne. Okay. Or just stank his ass off. He probably looks like he don't take a bath.
That Damien would drink human blood, remembering a time when Jason was bleeding and Damien took some of the blood with his finger and licked it off. Jessie stated that Officer Callahan had lied in court about not seeing him on May 5th. Jessie claims they had a short conversation. After all of them were meeting on the road, the 3 boys walked into the woods and were sitting in the water with Jason and Damien going under. Jessie said he could not go under because of his ear problem. The 3 young boys were seen from a distance when Damien told Jessie and Jason to hide. Jessie said,
yes, I've watched everything basically ever done on the West Memphis Three. From the time I was young buck all the way up until now. That's why when somebody said something about it last night, it triggered me so bad. Okay, because even before I had a true crime channel, I was following this in the Delphi murder. Okay, so this goes back to I honestly believe that they gave people like me a bad name. All right, because I was just like this, the metalhead that, a little bit different than everybody. I went to school in the hood, so I stuck out like a sore damn thumb, so I was definitely different. And then, I think there's a few people that made metalheads look bad. I believe the West Memphis Three and the Columbine kids made all metalheads for a good minute look really bad, okay, and scary, like we would hurt people. And that's not necessarily true.
Said they were hiding behind bushes when Damien grabbed Michael Moore. The 2 other young boys started hitting Damien, trying to help their friend, and that is when Jessie and Jason jumped out and helped Damien beat them. Jessie advised,
yes, it smells like an old sweaty ass man. I can't stand the smell of it. Okay, it's like, oh my God, get some damn CK something, right? Anything. Obsession for men is not Brute.
he helped hold them and beat them, but had no part in raping and killing them. Jessie advised 2 of the boys were raped from behind before and after they were tied up, and that Damien and Jason were taking
this happened in the 90s.
Turns with the 2 boys. Jessie said the boys were still alive at this time. Jessie said the boys were kept quiet by putting hands over their mouths, and that Jason and Damien had used shirts and that faces were pushed down to the ground. Jessie was asked how the boys were kept under control while being raped and not tied yet, and he stated, they were like puppies. When you whoop a puppy and tell it to stay, it will. Jessie did say he had to catch Michael Moore, but did not say at what point. Jessie claims that the 3rd boy was never raped, but that he may have been the one that Damien took his penis and put it in his mouth, the young boy's penis. Jessie said at one point Damien and Jason had one of the boys in a headlock. With one, he believed had his penis in the boy's mouth, while the other one had from behind. Again, this is where sometimes the writing doesn't become very clear. Jessie said he did not mention the ears to the police, only the headlock. Jessie also mentioned that sticks had been used to beat the boys. At one point, Jessie said that Jason had a buck-type Lockie knife and cut it off and threw it in the weeds, in which I'm assuming they're talking about the scrotum and the skin of the penis of one of the boys, saying the boy was alive and tied at this point, and that he was surprised blood did not get on him, and because blood went everywhere, and he was about a car length away. Jessie said they threw him into the water, and he was still squirming around in the water, at which point he left. Jessie said he does not know what happened to the knife. Jessie said he believed that the other two boys were not conscious when he left, but were not in the water. Jessie also stated that Jason called him later and asked him why he left, and he told them that he told them he could not watch it any longer. He claims the only other contact with Jason and Damien were a couple of times at the skating rink, but that they were mad at him. And here's some other information that was shared. Jessie claims his lawyer asked him if he was innocent, and he said that he lied to him. Jessie said he lied about the brown robe to trick the police and to see if they were lying. Jessie says he feels that Damien and Jason tricked him into what he did. Jessie claims he felt sorry for what happened and talks as if he wants to testify against the other boys so that they will not go free, which later he decided not to do. Jessie did say one photograph, or one of the photographs shown to him in the interrogation, was a group picture of the boys riding their bicycles in front of a house. The claims made by the officers would be validated by Jessie again on February 8th and February 17th of 1994. Here's something Jessie said to one of the prosecutors, Brent Davis, about why he lied.
Right now, there's 666 people in the room as we talk about these evil ass people. Do y'all see that? There's 660. Well, there's 7 now. Thank you, whoever just joined. Okay, because we had to get rid of that number quickly because we're watching some evil ass people, and there's 666 people in the room. The devil's watching. Okay, the devil's watching this shit because they work for the devil.
And this was an interview done on February 17th, 1994. So Jessie Misskelley tells Brent Davis, "We tied him up." Davis responds, "Okay, now you said before when police asked you in their statement and asked you what they were tied up with, and you said they were tied up with rope." Jessie answers, "I made that up." And Davis asks, "Why?" And Misskelley responds with, "Try to get off, get him off track." Jessie confessed to his own attorney, Dan Stidham, in February of 1994 twice. Against the advice of his attorney, Jessie would also confess to the prosecuting attorneys without any deal of any kind. When asked why, Jessie said, "I want something done about it." The confessions he makes to his attorney under his own free will.
So he didn't just confess once, where they said the police made him say that stuff. He confessed 6 times. Okay. 6 times, confirmed 6 times. He may have confessed more than that, but he definitely told it 6 different times to different people. So if you say, well, it was suggestive interrogation, well, what about the other 5 times? Okay. Well, that's suggestive, right? He just wanted to talk. He was just telling it to everybody. And slowly, his story started to add up to what only somebody at the crime scene would have known.
It's pretty well detailed and uncoursed. In total, Jessie confessed to police, his attorney, and the prosecutors a total of 6 times. These dates include June 3rd, June 11th, and August 19th of 1993, and February 4th, February 8th, and February 17th of 1994.
The stepdads were never charged with anything, okay? And if you remember, the stepdads were against the West Memphis Three in the beginning. All right. After that $100 million hit, they were wearing free West Memphis Three shirts. Okay. The most disgusting shit. Listen, I hate to say anything bad about the parents of these three little boys. I hate to do it, but they sold their kids out. Okay. In the beginning, they hated the West Memphis Three. I hope they die. They were calling him the F word because of, he basically R'd the kids, and they were screaming at him outside the courthouse and stuff. If you guys followed it, y'all remember that, the mother. But time, Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder, the Dixie Chicks, all that money hit. The family showed up later with free West Memphis Three shirts on. It made me hate them. It made me hate them because right there, you just sold your kid's life, right? You just sold your kids. Like, somebody kills my kid, you ain't got enough money ever in your life to make me back you or support you. You can't buy me like that, right? And these people were bought like a damn box of Fruit Loops. Just that easy. That's how easy they flipped and started blaming other people other than the West Memphis Three. All it took was, millions of dollars. But I hope they enjoyed that blood money. I hope they enjoyed it.
And those are just the official documented and recorded confessions. There's speculation he may have confessed more, but just not substantiated, so I don't really want to go into it. Now, Jessie stated repeatedly to police in confessions that he felt sorry for his role in the murders of Stevie, Michael, and Christopher. Jessie said he cried multiple times due to the overwhelming amount of guilt, and his statement would be corroborated by his father's at the time girlfriend, Lee Rush. So, shortly after police arrested Jessie Misskelley Jr., law enforcement went to Jessie's trailer with a search warrant. Lee told several officers that when she would wake up at night several times to Jessie crying loudly. This is what she said in her own words. I knew that something was wrong. A few nights ago, little Jessie was in his room crying so loud and sobbing so hard that it woke me up. I went in and asked him what was wrong. His reply was that his girlfriend was moving to Florida. Now, Lee Rush wasn't buying that, and for good reason. It should be noted that Jessie Jr.'s girlfriend, Susie Brewer, she didn't move to Florida.
Yes, the parents got paid. Absolutely. They got paid a lot. All right. We ain't talking about a little bit of money. All right. We ain't talking about a little bit of money. We're talking about some of the biggest celebrities. Listen, why would Marilyn Manson, right? Somebody's a person that's in the Church of Satan. Why would he donate millions of dollars to you? Why would a Satanist donate millions of dollars to somebody that's accused of being a Satanist? Because he's a Satanist and he wanted to help his fellow Satanists. That's why. They both are into Alice Crowley, a known Satanist, right? A lot of these Satanists follow this dude. You remember Ozzy singing about him? Other entertainers singing about him. Jay-Z even wears shit with occult symbols on it. Jay-Z. Right? He's tied to P. Diddy. You know how that goes, right? But a lot of these people are wearing stuff, these celebrities, that is based in the occult. People you wouldn't even think. Some of these people may be devil worshipers behind the scenes, and you just don't know, right? They're not. Some people come out openly and say, I worship the devil, like Marilyn Manson. I'm a Satanist. I go to the Church of Satan. I'm a Satanist, just like that general in the army. PJ, are you awake? What was that general's name? And send me a picture of it in my Facebook. I don't think she's awake. I heard something moving. I thought it was her.
Just didn't happen. It was a lie. And it shows correlation between Jessie's crying, after the murders, to Jessie listening to Aaron's recording. If you watch the first Paradise Lost, you can feel the tension between Lee Rush and Jessie Sr. Jessie Sr. was sticking with his son, right or wrong, where Lee felt that
That is
if
right,
he was found
baby.
guilty, he wanted nothing to do with him. She expressed she would feel the exact same way if it were her own son. Shortly after this was filmed, the relationship with Jessie Sr. and Lee Rush came to an end.
I don't know.
In
Like,
addition to Jessie Jr.'s multiple confessions, he would also have no credible alibi during the time frame of the murders. In fact, Jessie Jr.'s alibi changed, if not by his own account, then by his father, Jessie Sr. Jessie Sr. was interviewed by news reporters days later after his son's arrest. A reporter from KAIT TV asked him if his son could have been with Damien and Jason on the night of the murder.
no, I think she was awake. I heard the refrigerator.
Jessie Sr. stated that was a possibility, but that his son didn't murder anyone. Jessie's father would later claim that his son was actually at home and remembered seeing him at 7:15 p.m. that night as his son was preparing to go wrestle. The timing of
I know I lost a lot of respect for Johnny Depp too. I never liked Eddie Vedder or the Dixie Chicks, but I did lose a lot of respect for Johnny Depp. Right? I was like, oh my God, this is horrible.
Jessie Sr.'s statement was challenged by his teacher, Gloria Wilson, at the alcohol safety class he attended for DWI violations. According to the teacher, class didn't get out until at least 15 minutes to 8, making it impossible for Jessie Sr. to have seen Jessie Jr. at 7:15 p.m. There was also a wrestling alibi that would also be proven false. Fred Revell, pro wrestler, gave a detailed account of what happened on the day of the murders. He claimed Jessie was with the wrestling crew that evening. One piece of detailed statement that would debunk that claim involved a check and a receipt. Fred stated that he had to give $300 to a man named Charles Stone.
No, Eddie Vedder is not connected to P. Diddy. I hope not anyway. But Eddie Vedder is one of the people that spearheaded this too with Johnny Depp to try to get the West Memphis Three free, which are child killers. They didn't believe they did it. That's what they said. And they raised millions of dollars and put up a lot of their own money, having concerts for them, benefits for them. And they raised millions and millions and millions of dollars to help free these people.
For a wrestling ring he purchased. Fred claimed he wrote the check on May 5th of 1993, the day of the murders, and he was given a receipt and that the check was deposited the next day. That's what Fred said, but the receipt was actually dated April 27th, a little over a week before the murders. Now, another piece of crucial information involves the Evan Williams whiskey bottle. Jessie claimed he was drinking Evan Williams whiskey on the evening of the murders. It played an important role in the case to substantiate Jessie's involvement. Jessie told his attorney, Dan Stidham, that after the murders, he was mad at what Damien and Jason did to the three boys, especially when he...
Was it his book, Life After Death? Okay, because he came out with the book, Life After Death. And he also came out with a book on the occult. Right. So, this guy said he wasn't into all these things when he was in court and when he was in the prison. But as soon as he got out of prison, of course, he wrote these books and a book on the occult. Now, which one is it? Are you not into the occult, or you are into the occult? Because it's awful fucking funny. Right now, you got a book out on the occult. All right. Now that you're free.
He witnessed them mutilate Christopher.
I call that a skullet. It's like a mullet, but shaved on the sides. That, to me, that is a skullet. I don't know what other people call it. Thank you so much for your super sticker. This is horrible. It's horrible. It gets worse.
After he left, he smashed that Evan Williams whiskey bottle on an overpass between Walmart and Lakeshore out of anger. Here is a statement by prosecutor Brent Davis during the Echols Baldwin hearing on February 22nd, 1994. To quote Mr. Stidham, I believe at the time, if we can find a bottle like he says,
a freak off,
then that will convince me that it happened. At 9:30 or 10 at night, we drive. At 10 o'clock in the evening, we proceed, the four of us, to roam underneath the overpass of West Memphis and lo and behold, find a broken bottle in the location indicated by his client, which of course is Jessie. We then take the bottle to a local liquor store where we proceed to spend the better part of an hour matching the bottle with certain...
Oh no, there's plenty of t-shirts with their faces on it. Plenty of West Memphis 3 t-shirts with this mugshot on it. The one behind me, that shit was on all kind of t-shirts.
Items. And lo and behold, it matches the brand name bottle Mr. Stidham had indicated that we should be looking for in the first place. At that point, Mr. Stidham says that wasn't good. It just wasn't good enough to convince him. Additional efforts were made. There was a week hiatus where there was no contact, apparently. Jessie stated that Vicky Hutchinson bought him the bottle of Evan Williams whiskey on the day of the murders, and this would be verified by Vicky herself.
No, he's not. He just dropped out of school and he's not smart. He is not retarded, like you said. Okay, that is not true. That is misinformation. They had psychiatrists look at him. They had doctors evaluate him. He scored low on an IQ test because he's a dropout. He wouldn't go to school. He wouldn't apply himself because he said he wanted to be a mechanic like his dad, so he didn't need school. But you know, the thing about this is to be a mechanic, it takes skills. It takes knowledge, right? You can't be out there drooling on yourself and change a damn transmission. I don't even know how to do it. Okay. I can't go out there and fix your car, but apparently this kid could.
Jessie would confess, recant, and reconfess several times before and after his trial. Ultimately, Jessie decided he was not going to testify at Damien and Jason's trial.
But they also said he purposely got in there and tried to score low on the IQ because his lawyer told him it would help him. Okay. To avoid the death penalty, to score low on the IQ test. So that's what he did.
So why would Jessie recant? It's not uncommon, actually, especially when you weigh what the right thing to do is versus freedoms and self-preservation. Ted Bundy confessed to over 100 murders, but later recanted. John Wayne Gacy would also confess to murders, but later recanted. Murderers have a tendency to do what is in their best interest, or why else would they go to trial? And if found guilty, why would they appeal? Jessie's recantment is not grounds for innocence.
Oh, he was. He went back to West Memphis with Johnny Depp. He was hanging with Johnny Depp. Echols was. Right? So, yeah, he was definitely hanging with Johnny Depp because he for the first time he went back after he got out of prison, he went back with Johnny Depp. Tell me that ain't sick.
So let's talk about Jessie's low IQ score. Jesse's low IQ score of 72 is often brought up to prove that he was tricked into confessing. Jesse's defense team gave him an IQ test and tried to depict Jesse as borderline mentally retarded. It would be noted that Dan Stidham was upfront about the test and how a lower score could be beneficial to his client's case because it could possibly remove a death penalty sentence. Part of this discussion can be seen on Paradise Lost, the childhood murders at Robin Hood Hills. It's not out of the realm of possibility to assume that Jesse could have tried to score poorly on purpose, something brought up during Dr. William Wilkins' cross-examination, the doctor who scored Jesse. Jesse's IQ score may not even reveal borderline mental retardation at all, but instead a lack of effort on his part. In Maura Leverrett's book, Devil's Knot, page 70, Jesse stated that he did poorly in school and dropped out because he simply didn't care anymore. He figured he would be a mechanic like his father. What Jesse lacked in higher learning, he made up for in street smarts, especially when it came to understanding his Miranda rights. It all came down to what Jesse wanted to learn. You have to have a skill and knowledge to fix a car. I mean, it takes learning.
I agree with that.
So in conclusion, it is without any doubt that Jessie Misskelley is guilty based on the solid circumstantial evidence and the direct evidence of his confession. The alibis made by Jesse, his father, and friends have been proven false to presumably try and protect him. Jesse placed himself at the crime and he had no reliable alibi. And even though he wasn't initially truthful about all the details, he would later offer relevant insight to what happened that only those who were there would know. We probably won't ever get to see the entire puzzle, but we at least see enough pieces to know what the picture is. Jesse minimized his involvement, and we won't know how much he truly participated in, but we do know he participated in beating those boys, those poor boys, and he chased and got Michael Moore back. He only confessed and wanted to do something about it after he was interrogated by police and after he was convicted. While this part is not directly linked to the murders, it does show how Jesse is capable of hurting children. I want you to hear this.
Yes, this is
In
crazy.
March 1993, Jesse was arrested for punching Tiffany Danielle Allen, a 13-year-old girl, in the face. In a statement given after his arrest to the West Memphis Police Department, Dennis Carter, a friend of Misskelley's, reported an incident in which Misskelley chased down a 6-year-old girl, striking her in the head with a rock.
6 years old.
That poor little girl cried while Jesse laughed. But this is the guy that the West Memphis Three advocates want you to think is innocent and was tricked into a confession. Yeah, okay.
All right, here's where it gets bad. It gets bad right here. Real bad. Oh, my God. Damien is the worst of all of them.
Damien Echols. It's popularly believed that he was one of the 3 falsely convicted of murder because he dressed in black, listened to heavy metal music, and read Stephen King novels. It is widely accepted that Satanic Panic was the primary reason why Damien was found guilty. This belief is heavily enforced by the Paradise Lost series, The Devil's Knot book, and a cast of famous people sympathetic to the West Memphis Three cause. They believe that Damien was just a mere depressed, misunderstood bright kid in an ignorant southern judgmental Christian town who scorned him simply because he dressed differently and liked other interests. Now, according to Damien, West Memphis was second Salem,
This ain't Tennessee.
and he was a victim in their modern-day witch hunt. Okay, now call me crazy, but I'm pretty sure the prosecutors of the West Memphis Three trials didn't use spectral evidence to convict them like they did in Salem back in the day. Some of you are probably asking, what the hell is spectral evidence? Well, Joan Johnson Lewis of ThoughtCode.com explains it really well. Spectral evidence is evidence based on visions and dreams of actions of a witch's spirit or specter. Thus, spectral evidence is testimony about what an accused person's spirit did, rather than the actions of the accused person in the body. In the Salem witch trials, spectral evidence was used as evidence in the courts, especially in the early trials. If a witness could testify seeing the spirit of someone and could testify to interacting with that spirit, perhaps even bargaining with that spirit, that was considered evidence that the person possessed had consented to the possession and thus...
Yes, I seen the Omen. Scary ass movie right there about the kid that was possessed by the devil. Old school horror movie.
...was responsible. Okay, I'm 100% confident that spectral evidence was not used to convict Damien Echols, hence voiding the lunacy of this being another Salem witch trial. I'm also certain that West Memphis didn't attribute all other crimes to Satanism. However, what we do see, if we dig deeper, we'll see a violent, disturbed kid with documented health problems along with suicidal and homicidal tendencies. Let's discuss what led up to the murders. Right? On May 29th of 1992, nearly a year before the murders, Damien was arrested for burglary and sexual misconduct after trying to run away with a girl named Deanna Holcomb, his girlfriend at the time. During the arrest, Damien threatened to kill the officer who made the arrest and Deanna's father. Later, Damien told caseworkers that he made a suicide pact with Deanna if they couldn't be together. How Romeo and Juliet. Jerry Driver, a juvenile probation officer, along with Detective John Murray, questioned Damien. Damien denied being a Satanist, but he did admit he was involved in the occult. He described himself as a gray witch, a witch that is in the middle of white and black witchcraft. Basically, he saw himself neutral between good and evil. Damien explained to Jerry that he did have a group that would meet and that his main participant was his best friend, Jason Baldwin.
Jason Baldwin, that's his sidekick. That is the boy that helped him murder these 3 boys. And that was like his little, like, flunky, you know what I'm saying? His little sidekick.
He also boasted that Jason would never give him up, which was confirmed in Damien's autobiography entitled Life After Death. Jason knew of Damien and Deanna's plan to run away together and was with them part of the day, helping them.
Definitely hit the like if you're tuning in, guys.
Damien's violent acts and threats would only get worse.
It's Jason Baldwin, okay? Not Alec Baldwin. That's the actor.
In addition to threatening to kill Deanna's father and the arresting police officer, Damien threatened to kill former friend Shane Divilbus, the person Deanna dated after her split with Damien. In school, Damien attacked Shane and tried to gouge out his eye. In Damien's autobiography, Life After Death, Damien denied this act, claiming his finger accidentally slipped and grabbed onto Shane's eye. But his book contradicted his statements in his medical records. In a discharge summary on June 25th, 1992, he admits to violence and trying to remove Shane's eye. This is one of many examples of Damien trying to minimize his actions while he was in prison and after his release. He doesn't want the populace to know about the real him or who he was. He wants you to see this facade, this poor, misunderstood guy at the time.
Yeah, he tried to snatch the boy's eyeball out, okay? Then he tried to deny it. Then he didn't deny it. He, while he was in prison, some of the things he denied in the beginning, he would say, yeah, I said that, or yeah, I did that. But in the beginning, he denied everything. But when he got to prison, he started to get where he figured he wasn't going to get out. And then he started to play that I'm a killer, I'm the boogeyman type role, and we heard that last night where he said kids would be looking under the bed. I always knew people would talk about me. I always knew people would know who I was, and that he's happy that things happen like that he would never change nothing in his life. And kids would look under their bed and think Damien was the boogeyman, the West Memphis boogeyman.
Shane would also have some interesting insights on Damien. He claimed that Damien was an imposing person and that his friends feared him. He stated that if you disagreed with Damien, his glance could quickly silence them with intimidation.
Crazy.
Now, Damien also threatened to kill his mother and father. After leaving Charter Hospital of Little Rock in 1992, his parents moved him to Oregon because Pam, Damien's mother, believed that he was into some strange activities such as witchcraft, and she also didn't like the quality of friends that he had in Arkansas. In September of 1992, Damien's parents called the police. They no longer felt safe around their unstable son. Damien made statements that he was going to kill himself and others. He threatened to commit suicide in various ways. Damien also threatened to cut his mother's throat, and also made verbal threats to kill his father.
What a nice guy.
In March of 1993, 14-year-old Jennifer Ball stated an incident with Damien. She was in her kitchen on the phone when all of a sudden Damien appeared outside her window, telling her she was going to die. An incident report was filed and is on record. This was a little over 2 months before the murders. Soon after Damien threatened Jennifer's life, he went to 13-year-old Amanda Lancaster's house to stalk and intimidate. According to Amanda, she stated that Heather Cleet, Jason Baldwin's girlfriend, told her that Damien had been asking about her.
They said let him in the general population. No, they're out of prison altogether on the streets. They're free. They're free as shit. They're out writing books and going on talk shows and shit.
Asked Heather about Amanda's phone number and address. After the child murders, Amanda reported that At the local skating rink, Damien would follow her and Jennifer around, stalking them, and threatened that they were the next two to die. On May 24th, at a softball field, multiple different girls heard Damien claim he murdered Stevie, Christopher, and Michael. He went on to say that he planned on killing 2 more people before turning himself in. He claimed that he already had one of them picked out.
You don't have to believe it. You can believe whatever you want. Okay. But these are the things that were happening that, HBO didn't tell you. You watched a well put together film and you think somebody's innocent. You can make people look a certain way. But the facts are this: he was drinking blood. He's part of the occult. He's part of the occult right now. Okay. He lied in court, which is perjury. So you can believe whatever you want, but that don't make what you believe right.
Some of these girls include Christophe Van Vickel, Katie Hendricks, Jody Medford, Jessica Medford, Jackie Medford, and Kitty LaFoy. Donna Medford,
And
the mother,
a lot of people believe anything celebrities say, right? Oh, if Johnny Depp says it, it got to be true. If Eddie Vedder says it, right? But what about the Satanists that backed him? Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson hangs out with Johnny Depp. Why does Johnny Depp hang out with a Satanist? Make it make sense, right? Because these people believe in this occult shit. They really do.
of Jody, Jessica, and Jackie, also made a statement regarding Damien's softball field confessions. Based on the statements before and after the murders, I think it's pretty solid to believe that it's possible Amanda Lancaster and Jennifer Ball may have been on Damien's list. In trial, Damien admitted being at the softball field, but denied making those remarks, calling the girls liars. Years after being long convicted, in a prison interview, he admitted that he probably did say it, but it was a joke. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Who jokes about killing 3 little kids? I didn't say that, right? When he was young, he said, I didn't say that. But then once he was in prison, yeah, I said that, but it was probably a joke. Well, that ain't what you said in the beginning. That ain't what you said in court. Okay. Now you're saying something totally different. Why is the story changing? Why did the story change in court? Why did he lie about being in the Crowley? Right? Because he's a Satanist. And he didn't want to come off as a Satanist because these killings had that vibe of some satanic killing.
Wrong, but isn't it perjury to lie on the stand? Okay, so Heather Cleat made
Johnny is in the band Hollywood Vampires, you right? Because of these people, they believe in drinking blood. All right. You think Brad Pitt was lying in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? That how they torture these kids and scare them? I don't know. I think they leak information in movies, okay, to you, so you really know what's going on. And if you think good is real, you got to believe that evil is real. And I truly do believe a lot of these people are evil. They may not come out and say they're evil, but sometimes people say, hey, to make it big as you are, you may have sold your soul to the devil. Think about that. If you sit there and believe in God, you got to believe in the devil. If you believe in good, you got to believe there's evil. And these people are evil.
Statement that Damien told her that he stuck a stick in a dog's eye, jumped on it, and burned it. Joe Bartosh, Jason's cousin, witnessed the torture and killing of the dog. So you have 2 different collaborating statements that can't really be dismissed or passed off as hearsay. You have one who heard about it and one who saw it happen.
Right there, Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly drink each other's blood. Yeah, I know. Sean Strickland from the UFC said, I didn't know Megan Fox dated a vampire. Okay, it's weird. Maybe it's for attention, but either way, drinking blood and this weird stuff is like, it's not normal. What normal person sits around drinking blood?
These weren't just mere acquaintances or just casual friends. You have one who was the actual girlfriend of Jason Baldwin and one who was his cousin. What purpose would that be to lie, especially if it hurts Jason at trial? Now, a dog skull was found in Damien's house on May 19th, 1992, after running away with Deanna. Damien claimed in trial that he and his stepfather found it on the side of the road. Now, some will say that the dog killing is conjecture, and fair enough, but consider these two things: Damien's lies and how he minimizes versus his actual track.
There's a 3-part docuseries called Paradise Lost that came out years ago on HBO. And the directors met with him for like 10 minutes and figured they thought he was innocent. And then so the whole documentary is kind of based on their side and trying to prove them innocent. They don't talk about none of the bad stuff that they were doing, like killing that dog or bringing the dog skull home or stalking them little girls or him, Misskelley, beating the kid in the head with a rock. They don't talk about none of that stuff. They started off with, they didn't do it, and they try to pin it on the stepdad and all these other things. But the truth is, these young men had information that only the killer would have known. Okay, Damien Echols, Jessie Misskelley, Jason Baldwin, they all knew things that they couldn't have known any other way unless they were there. That's just facts.
Record. Weigh the two out. What is more plausible? It should also be noted that days after being arrested for the murders of Stevie, Michael, and Christopher, Damien attempted suicide on June 9th, 1993. He hoarded medicine he was supposed to take daily while in jail. He consumed 12 pills at once. He left a suicide note. He was then placed in a holding tank until proper authorities could be notified. An ER doctor advised they give Damien a syrup that would help him vomit out the medication. This really just shows you that this was a person who not only was homicidal, but was suicidal and was mentally not well. I would like to go back to how Damien stalked people. As previously stated, he stalked Jennifer Ball and Amanda Lancaster, be it at their homes or out in public. Here's an interesting statement Jesse made to Detective Ridge. He talked about how Damien had a briefcase. In it was drugs and photographs of the boys in front of a house. Now, let's stop there. Let's see if we can see a connection. Let's just see if there's anything outside of Jesse's confession that can validate this. Now, Melissa Byers, the mother of Christopher, made a statement to police on October 5th, 1993, regarding a man taking pictures of her son in front of her house. Let me read it in her own words. Sometime around last of February 1993 or the 1st of March 1993, my husband and myself went down to the corner grocery flash market on Ingram Boulevard. We left Ryan and Christopher home. Christopher was playing out under the carport. We returned about 20 minutes later, and Christopher came outside telling us a man had taken his picture. When questioned about it, Christopher told us the man had on a black coat, pants, shoes. He also had black hair. I asked him if the man talked to him or tried to grab him. He told me no, however, the man scared him, and he ran into the yard to get away from him. He told me the man took his picture, got into his car, and left. He told me the man had a green car. Now, this is where West Memphis Three supporters will say that Damien, doesn't know how to drive, or he doesn't have a license, at least at that time. That doesn't mean anything. Jesse also stated to Ridge that Damien would drive Jack Echols' car. In case you're not paying attention, people have a tendency to do things that are against the law. Now, some will argue that Jack's car was red and not green, but see, these are kind of minor details. We just know that if Damien needed to drive, he could drive.
Mm-hmm.
You don't throw the proverbial baby out of the bathwater. So is Melissa making up a story? Was there another possible explanation? Well, Melissa thought maybe it was someone at the mortgage company at the time, since they were having some financial troubles with their house. They thought maybe someone came to take pictures, so she contacted them to ask, and they responded that they haven't been out there since August of 1992. So that possibility was ruled out. So let's take a look at another incident. 11-year-old Jessica Bryant and her parents went to the West Memphis Police Department to report a stalking incident, which Jessica stated happened about 2 months before the murders, putting it around March. According to her statement,
So Damien, listen. So the picture that was taken, Jessie Misskelley said that Damien had a briefcase with the pictures of the boys in it. Now the lady at the house reported that there was some man taking pictures of her kids. Now we got another little girl that goes down and reports to the police that Damien is stalking her. So this boy was stalking people before the murders. He was threatening to kill himself, his mother, his daddy, the other little girls. I don't know. And people act like this is some good dude and he's into the occult. And he was into the occult as a kid. And now that he's free and a grown man, he's still into the occult. And he swore up and down in court that he won't.
and she said, "It was a Sunday, and we were just running around talking to each other, and this boy just came up walking down the street, and he was dressed in all black, and so we were just playing, and we looked over, and there we saw him. He was behind the bush, and so we went, and so we weren't really paying attention to him. We didn't think anything was going to happen, so we continued playing, and then he was still there. So we went over and we hid behind this car for a few minutes, and we thought, he won't come out. So we go away, and he leaves us
Right,
alone.
AG?
And we went back, and he was still there, and so he was looking out of the corner of his eyes at us, and so
Okay, we got a 704 likes today on that like button. All right, y'all leave y'all's DNA just in case y'all go missing in West Memphis, okay? Just in case y'all go missing in West Memphis, leave your DNA on the like button just in case this dude gets you. Just remember, these people are free. Don't be walking under no bridges in West Memphis. You had Damien Echols might jump out on your ass like the boogeyman.
So we didn't know what to do. So we went inside and told my mama, and he started running off, and then we don't know what happened to him.
There wasn't no DNA that got him released. What got him released is the Alfred plea. They were saying they were innocent, but they believed that the state had enough evidence to convict them. Okay. So they took the Alfred plea. DNA did not get them off. Okay. There wasn't no evidence that got them off. If you're saying that, that's misinformation. There was no evidence that got them off. They took an Alfred plea. The state had enough evidence to convict them, but instead of causing the state millions of dollars to retry them, they released them under the Alfred plea. That is how they got free. It ain't because some DNA came up that belonged to somebody. It ain't none of that. So don't even come in here with that craziness, okay?
Let's take all that information from multiple sources. We have Jessie Misskelley, who stated Damien had photos of victims in a briefcase. We have Melissa Byers, stating her son told her that a man all dressed in black was photographing him sometime in February or March of 1993. We have Jennifer Ball and Amanda Lancaster, who talked about an incident of stalking and threats in March of 1993. We then have Jessica Bryant stating that she was being watched by Damien in March of 1993. We see a clear and distinct pattern of behavior that you simply cannot ignore. Let's move on to Damien's taste for blood, human blood. His fetish for consuming blood is extensively documented in a 500-page document called Exhibit 500.
500. That's what Josh
The
Glad was
documents are-
talking about. Remember when he said, what about Exhibit 500 where he's drinking blood? He's in the mental hospital. He's telling these doctors that he want to hurt people, and he's drinking the blood of somebody that cut their wrist in the hospital, right? That's what Exhibit 500 goes over. And you tell me a normal person that does that.
A long list of Damien's mental health records that were presented by his
West
lawyers to
Memphis,
convince the
Arkansas.
jury not to give him the death penalty by persuading the jurors that he was mentally ill. While at Charter Hospital of Little Rock back in June of 1992, Damien would suck blood off of peers who had scratched themselves. In September of the same year, Damien was in the Craighead County Juvenile Detention Center. While there, Another juvenile cut his wrists. Damien grabbed the kid by one of his wrists and sucked the blood from the open wound. He then smeared the blood on his face and proclaimed he was a devil-worshipping vampire. He was immediately
Johnny Depp, Hollywood vampire, right? These are blood drinkers. Blood drinkers.
placed in isolation and suicide watch. Damien stated to one social worker that he believed in vampires and that he worshipped the devil. He told another counselor that drinking blood gave him power and that it made him feel like a god.
Okay, remember that. He liked drinking blood and it made him feel like a god. Because when they get into the Aleister Crowley stuff, that's the same thing Aleister Crowley said. All right. So this satanic dude was saying these same things. The purest, you got a human sacrifice. It has to be young. It has to, because the younger they are, the purer they are. And that blood is more powerful. Okay. Just remember this, because this is going to come back to play when they get into what he said in court.
In addition to Jesse's many confessions, others have witnessed Damien's taste for blood. Tiffany Allen.
You should be scared, because this ain't the only dude. There's a lot of people in Hollywood doing this. Okay. We know that there's a lot of things that go on in Hollywood and in the music world, and don't act like you're shocked at this. They've been releasing little pieces of this in movies to let you know these things are going on, that the occult is real. And it's real in Hollywood. And when you get all these celebrities together and they start trying to help somebody that's a Satanist, it makes you think, why? Why would they do that? There's a million people that may be wrongly convicted. Why did they go try to help the Satanist? Because maybe they're Satanists themselves.
Witnessed a fight between Jason Baldwin and this other boy. After the fight, Jason bled, and Damien wiped Jason's blood off with his finger and put it in his mouth. Damien made it clear during an interview that he doesn't drink blood, but licks it. An irrelevant statement, because whether he's drinking, sucking, or licking, he's consuming human blood. Now let's go over Damien's take on the murders. On May 9th, 1993, Detective Brian Ridge and Shane Griffin visited Damien, Jason, and Dominique at the front of Jason's residence. They asked Damien his thoughts on the murders. Damien believed whoever committed the crime was sick and did it as a thrill kill. He said that the penis was a symbol of power and that the number 3 was sacred in the Wicca religion. He said the murdered boys probably died of mutilation and drowning. He assumed one was cut up worse than the others, and that the purpose of the murder was to scare someone. Damien claimed only one person committed the murders, because if there were more, someone would eventually confess. Boy, would that statement ever come back to bite him in the ass. When asked how the person felt after committing the murders, Damien answered that the person probably felt good because they had the power to do what they did by taking life. When asked why he thought the boys were so young, Damien answered that the younger the victim, the more innocent they were, and that it gave the murderer more power.
Okay, that is straight words from Aleister Crowley. The same thing that Aleister Crowley wrote is exactly the same. So we know that Damien is into this Aleister Crowley dude, because he's almost repeating it verbatim. Okay, so he believed in drinking the blood of these. The younger the kid, the better. The more pure the blood was, the better, right? And it would make you feel like a god. Aleister Crowley said the same thing. Okay, that drinking the blood of these kids will make you feel like a god. To me, it sounds sick as shit. Okay, but you know, it is what it is. And to think that some of these people in Hollywood are possibly doing things behind the scenes that we don't see, well, we know that. Okay, think about even Marilyn Manson. You seen what Marilyn Manson just went through, legal stuff, right? With torturing women and beating women and drinking blood and all that type of stuff. Did y'all see that? It just happened not too long ago, maybe like last year. He had torture chambers and all kinds of shit. So some of these people are a little strange. Okay, they're a little strange.
Damien believed that the killer knew that the kids went into the woods and that maybe the murderer asked them to come into the woods. He said that the boys were not big or smart and would be easily controlled. He said that the killer would not be concerned with the screams due to it being in the woods and that the killer wanted to hear the children scream. Damien believed that the killer was local and didn't care if he or she was caught because they thought it was funny. When asked what items the cops should be looking for at the crime scene, Damien answered candles, crystals, and a knife. Now, here is one bit of information that is mind blowing. Damien told Detective Ridge on May 10th that juvenile parole officer Steve Jones told him that
There was nobody's DNA that came into play that had them released. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. That is something you heard. That is fabricated. That is not true. There's nothing in court about no DNA that would belong to any stepdad, step parent, step anything. Okay.
testicles had been cut off and someone had urinated in their mouths of the boy.
Okay, you hear that, right? He said this, that somebody urinated in the mouth of the boys. This stuff was never released until the autopsy was done, right? Once the autopsy was done, it came back that the kids had urine in their system and that they had peed in their mouth. As nasty as that sounds, Dolly, makes me wonder about all them missing kids, right? And this is what I mean. There's people out there, even in Hollywood, and you look at people like, you ever seen that movie Sound of Freedom? Anybody seen that movie about, these kids being trafficked and tortured and beat and sexually assaulted and sold around the world? And listen, there are people out there that will hurt your kids. There are evil people in this world. And I mean, not just people that do evil things. I mean, people that are evil. Like they believe in evil, and they believe the more evil they do, the more powerful they become. They truly believe it. It ain't a little crowd of people. It's a big crowd of people. And it's a lot of these rich ass people. I don't know. When people get all this money, they start getting crazy.
And that the bodies had been placed in the water to flush it out. Here's what's incriminating. There's no way Jones could have known that. No one, not even Chief Inspector Gary Gitchell, knew, until May 16th, when he was phoned by Dr. Frank Peretti, the state forensic pathologist, and was told urine was discovered in the stomachs of 2 out of the 3 boys. There's no possible way Damien Echols could have known something so case specific. How could he? I mean, how could he, but not Chief Inspector Gitchell or the detectives? It's absurd on its face. Damien's take on the murders was eerily similar to what happened at the crime scene. He would be questioned at his trial by prosecutor Brent Davis. When asked where Damien heard about the details, he claimed he read about them in the commercial appeal. Problem is that information was never in the commercial appeal. Davis accused Damien of changing his explanations to conveniently fit the circumstances, and
That's what he was
agreed.
doing.
Damien was constantly changing his story. Now let's get into Damien's alibis. Damien claimed that he was on the phone with several girls that night. He claimed to be on the phone with Dominique Tier, Heather Cleet, Holly George, and Jennifer Burden. Although he did talk to these girls that night, the time frame doesn't create a compelling alibi. Damien claimed he talked to Holly that evening. That's not true. He talked to her in the afternoon around 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. Damien claimed he talked to Heather, but it wasn't until 10:30 p.m. he told her that he was walking around with Jason.
Jason Baldwin.
Damien parted ways with Dominique around 5 o'clock or 5:30 p.m. The next time she spoke with him was around 10 p.m.
After the
Damien
murders.
spoke with Jennifer sometime after 9:20 p.m. However, it's quite possible it was a little later than that. Before, Jennifer called Damien before 5:30 p.m. and she stated that Damien told her that he and Jason were going somewhere. She called Damien's house at 8 o'clock p.m. and was told that he wasn't home. Later, Damien changed his story and claimed that he gave his mother instructions to tell her he wasn't home because Dominique was over. Based on Dominique's accounts of where she was that night, she wasn't with Damien during that time frame.
This was in 1994, 93, 94. I can't remember exactly, but it was in the early 90s.
So who's lying, Damien or Dominique? Dominique was firmly behind Damien throughout the investigation and the trial, so there's nothing for her to gain by lying in her statement. Diane Tier, Dominique's mother, would also confirm she arrived home at 7 p.m. So far,
yeah, maybe some things were found after millions of dollars were poured into the case and everybody was bought. Okay. But in the beginning, no, there was none of that. There was no DNA that came forth that belongs to somebody and all that bullshit. They took an Alfred plea. That means that the state has enough evidence to convict you. But they wanted to save the state money, so they took this plea and they released them because their trial would have cost a bunch of more money. So instead of, the state losing all this money, they released them, which is horrible. It's terrible. But they wouldn't have, if they would have tried them, they had enough evidence to convict them. That is what the Alfred plea is. If you don't believe me and you want to argue that, just go look it up. Okay, just go look up what the plea is.
What we could take from that is that Damien was with Jason. So from 5:30 p.m. to after 9:20 p.m., but possibly later, Damien implicated himself along with Jason by telling others he walked around with his best friend that night. This contradicts his statement that he was on the phone with them during the time frame of the murders. Here's an interesting witness testimony. At 9:45 p.m., the Hollingsworth family, who knew Damien, testified that they saw him walking near the crime scene covered in mud on the night of the murders.
That's what Josh was talking about when he was in here, right? But they thought it was Echols and his girlfriend, but really it was Echols, Damien, and Jason Baldwin. And you see Jason Baldwin got long hair, blonde hair, curly hair. So did his girlfriend. So they confused the two, but they were covered in mud right near the crime scene. Now, they say that they didn't never been to this area. They didn't know this area, but Damien lived right by it at one point, right? They used to go out there and hang out. So he absolutely knew this area. And it was just more of his lies that unfolded over time, right? But, Paradise Lost, they don't tell you that. Johnny Depp don't tell you that. Marilyn Manson don't tell you that, right? Because they want you to know their narrative, right? They want you to make you question this. They didn't want to give you the straight facts, because if they gave you the straight facts, who would support these people? Nobody. The man was stalking people, talking about killing people, drinking blood. This dude was beating kids in the head with rocks. You think that is people would get behind and support? Yes, they were found guilty. Yes, they were found guilty and sentenced to life plus 40 years, life and a death penalty for Damien. So, but 100, 200, 300 million dollars later, yeah, they walking free.
They claim Dominique was with him. Now, it's fair to point out that the Hollingsworth family, I think, mistook Dominique for Jason. They had long, similar hair, they had the same build, and it was dark, and they were described as muddy. Besides that, multiple records state Jason was with Damien, so that's the one constant we have. In addition to Damien's lies, Pam Hutchinson, his mother, claimed that he was with the family.
Yeah, they remained that they were innocent, but it states that the state had enough evidence to convict them. Okay. And sometimes they'll do this, right? Which is rare. And you know why it's so rare? Because, the judge was paid off, the prosecutor was paid off, everybody was paid off. Money talks, bullshit walks, right? So that's basically what happened. Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder, the Dixie Chicks, Marilyn Manson, they bought everybody. They bought the whole place. Okay. You think about how much money these people have. They lined the pockets of everybody until these people walked. Sad. But, you can't bring these three little boys back, right? The torture that they went through is horrific. And there'll never be a time you hear me say these people are innocent. Never. It won't happen. And the monsters that helped them get out, they should be ashamed of themselves. And like I said last night, They may be walking now, but they're going to have to answer to God one day, and if he believes in Satan, he's going to get to meet him.
Only during the time frame of the murders. She claimed that they all had supper and then went to a friend's house. After that, they returned home and Damien was there the entire night, talking on the phone from 7:30 p.m. to 11 o'clock p.m. Pam claimed one of the people he spoke to that night was Jason. However,
Yeah, but that is different. Taking a plea, they state had enough evidence to convict them. Okay, it's totally different than copping a plea to a misdemeanor charge, right? Because they won't give you no jail time. This was totally different. Totally different. Right now, they're convicted child killers, walking free. Make that shit make sense.
Damien also claimed he was with Dominique and wouldn't take Jennifer's phone call because of it. Dominique certainly doesn't remember, so what's the truth here? Again, the story changes in order to help Damien. Here's an example of Damien admitting when cross-examined by Davis. So Davis states, your mother testified that when you were down at the police station, one of the things she told you was you got some alibis, correct? Damien responds, yes. Davis asks, she testified that the same day the police talked to you, or maybe it was your sister, that is when you first started discussing along with the family about the details of the alibis, correct? Damien responds, yes, sir. Davis asks, when the police talk with you on the 10th, at the point in time you tell them from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. is when you think you were at the Sanders. Is that right? Damien responds, I probably told him that then. Davis asks, that was about 5 days after the boys had turned up missing that you told them it was around 3 or 5 p.m. Damien responds, I probably told him that if it's in the report. Davis asks, when your mom tells him something, it's about 5 or 6 or 5 or 6:30, okay? Damien nods his head. Davis asks, as the time moves on and the time...
Yes. Have you seen that Jay-Z's designer that would do Beyonce's clothes is this evil satanic woman? Has anybody seen her? Right? Their clothing designer, and they tour around with her. And this lady looks like an evil ass witch. I mean, long thing. I mean, she is like a horror movie, like somebody straight out of a horror movie. Has anybody seen her or know her name? I will look her up for you guys tomorrow, because if you don't believe that these celebrities are tied in with some satanic people, I will prove you wrong. Okay. Has anybody seen her? Is that her name? I mean, this lady is the evilest looking lady I ever seen in my life, and she's a Satanist. Yes, she's another blood drinker. Yes, I saw her. I forget the name though. And she travels around with like Jay-Z and Beyonce and shit, right? She does all their clothes. She does a lot of clothes for celebrity. She's a designer, but she is a Satanist, and they tour around with her. Okay. Why would you? Yeah. The witch. That does spirit cooking. Yes, Dolly, but don't know her name. So y'all understand what I'm talking about, right? And I think a lot of these people don't get it, that a lot of these celebrities are evil. They just don't come out and say they are, but they're into this black magic and spells and things like that. Just think about the Haitians. They're into voodoo and eating cats and dogs, allegedly, right? There is some weird evil shit that goes on in this world, and some people are blind to it. Like, they just don't think it can happen, right? But it is happening. And some of these people that are evil are rich, and powerful. I mean, really powerful. Jay-Z is going down next. Jay-Z is definitely satanic. See, Lady Gaga too, right? Why do they hang with this Satanist? Like, yeah, I've always heard, birds of the same feather flock together. Especially in the entertainment world, why would you be associated with a Satanist? It's just crazy.
Time period that is in question becomes later in the evening. The visit to the Sanders becomes later in the evening, correct? Damien responds, "Yes, sir." Davis asks, "So the story kind of changes to fit the facts we need to cover, right?" Damien responds, "Yes, sir." It is clear that Damien and Pam are not being truthful because all four girls Damien claimed to have talked to that night didn't occur around the times he claimed. So who's lying? The four girls or Damien and Pam?
This is the lady. Hold on. This is the lady right here. Let me see if they got any pictures of her dressed all evil. This is her though. Let me see if I can pull this over here. Can y'all see her right there? This is the satanic lady that hangs out with all them celebrities. I don't understand it. I mean, unless they're into it, but she is like a clothing designer, but she's a Satanist, and they tour around with her. She makes all their outfits, and this is why their stuff has all this occult shit on it, is because this lady makes their clothes.
Is it responsible to believe the girls lied? Dominique was Damien's girlfriend and the mother of his child. Heather was Jason's girlfriend, so what would her motive be? Jennifer was very close with Damien. Holly was friends with Damien and Dominique. Again, what's the truth? They can't all be true, yet all are presented by Damien as evidence for an alibi, which all falls apart. Okay, let's talk about if Damien knew about the Robin Hood Hills crime scene. In prison interviews years after his conviction, he told multiple interviewers he lived in Marion and not West Memphis, which he said was about 15 to 20 miles away from the crime scene. He told interviewers he didn't spend a great deal of time in West Memphis unless it was to go to Walmart or the grocery store. He claimed not to be familiar with the Robin Hood Hills location.
All right, hold on. Now here she is with the goat head, okay? And I mean the horns ripped with the blood on the goat's head, right? I wish I could get this picture bigger. Here she is. All right, let's blow her up. Why are they hanging with this devil? Why these celebrities, and I'm talking about famous ass celebrities, hanging with this devil woman? All right, it took me a minute to find this witch. Okay, I hope she don't cast a spell on me. She might know I'm talking about her, right? But this woman is so evil. I mean, just look at this shit. Look what she's holding. Okay, and this lady is like hangs out with Jay-Z and Beyonce and shit. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that's a whole different video. Okay, we can go over, maybe tomorrow night we'll go over celebrities that hang with these devil worshipers. Okay.
See if his comments hold up. Damien, in fact, lived in West Memphis, and in fact testified in court he lived.
Say Madonna hangs with her too. There's a bunch of famous people. I can't name everyone off the top of my head that hangs with her, but I have seen all. And you think she's creepy? Her fucking husband's even more creepy. Okay, and these are Satanists, and they're designing these clothes with all this occult shit on it, and all these celebrities are wearing it, right? So why would you be wearing stuff with all this occult stuff on it unless you're a Satanist? Burn some sage, Dolly. I mean, the people are scary. There's real evil in this world, guys. So when y'all think I'm just, coming up here, trying to scare you, I'm not. You know how many good people there are? There's just as many fucking bad people. Will Smith and Jada. Yeah, they hang out with her, right? There's a bunch of celebrities that hang with this lady, and it's bizarre, but you can say, well, she's just our friend. We don't believe the same thing she believes, but you're wearing clothes with her imagery on it, like shit, that maybe you don't know what that means, but these are occult symbols that people use when they're sacrificing kids. And what about, remember the Stampede at that rap show? Remember they had the whole stage set up like hell, and they had the devils and shit, and all them people got crushed. They couldn't get out. They got trapped. Anybody remember that? There's some evil that goes on in this world. I mean, just pure evil.
at the Broadway trailer park in West Memphis, which was within 2 miles of the crime scene. Damien also testified he walked in the neighborhood about 2 to 3 times a week. Also,
Yeah, I seen Jada at Ozfest too when she was singing. You know what I'm saying? She was a singer of a metal band. Maybe that has something to do with it. You know, Travis Scott. Thank you guys. Thank you to Travis Scott concert. It was set up like a portal to hell. And then, you know, he didn't even stop performing and people were getting crushed to death. Right? Tell me that ain't eerie. You're standing there at a gateway to hell and people are dying. That's creepy. Okay. That is fucking creepy.
So worth noting that Robin Hood Hills was the halfway meeting point between Damien's residence and Jason's. Perhaps the most compelling part of his lies is the fact that he lived at the Mayfair Apartments as a child for a time that overlooked Robin Hood Hills. He even talked about it in his book, Almost Home. You know, going back to the Hollingsworth family, 16-year-old Tabitha Hollingsworth told Detective Dabbs in an interview that it wasn't unusual to see Damien and Jason at the location of Robin Hood Hills. She described them often walking around 10 Mile Bayou, the large body of water which ran under the pipe bridge. She said they go back there to the river all the time. The fact that the media and West Memphis Three advocates overlooked this is nothing short of embarrassing for them. Damien clearly lied as much as he is able to minimize his involvement to the point that it's not even clever but painfully obvious. How does someone overlook this? Okay, so let's talk about Damien's criminal motivation. Was his influence occult motivated or simply a thrill kill? Maybe a mixture of the two?
A cult.
I believe the state prosecutors overplayed the occult or satanic ritual side motive, but let's understand proof of motive is not required in a criminal prosecution. In determining the guilt of a criminal defendant, courts are generally not concerned with why the defendant committed the alleged crime,
if he did it,
but whether the defendant committed the crime. However, it may not be completely baseless that Damien had an occult motive. Let's talk about child sacrifice and Aleister Crowley and how that relates to Damien Echols.
Now, Aleister Crowley, we've heard many bands sing about Ozzy, you know, Bark at the Moon. And so they knew about this guy and they were reading his books. And so was Damien. Okay. And a lot of what he said comes straight from Aleister Crowley. He says it different, but I always thought it was Aleister Crowley. It may be pronounced a little bit different. But this dude is an evil, evil man. All right. So I'm a good person. Do I sit around and read his shit? Dolly, why did the Dixie Chicks, one of them died not long ago, I believe? Because they probably cursed, you know, when they sold their soul. Maybe. I don't know.
Damien denied being into black witchcraft and claimed to be either a white or gray witch, but Deanna claimed her ex-boyfriend lied about being a white and gray witch. She stated that he was very much into black witchcraft. Perhaps Deanna's most disturbing statement was this: I ran away with Damien. I went to a hospital in Memphis and he went to one in Little Rock. I found out that he planned to kill our firstborn if it was a girl. Damien would not do it. He is too much of a coward and would have tried to get me to do it.
That came from Damien's girlfriend, that he wanted to kill their firstborn child. What the hell? Okay. This is the people that the West Memphis Three cult, right? They defend. Now, would Dolly ever defend somebody like this? And no. Good people don't defend evil stuff. Evil people defend evil stuff.
That's when I knew he was nuts and I had nothing else to do with him. I met Damien at school. I read some of his poems and I felt sorry for him. Deanna saw Damien as too much of a coward to commit murder, but apparently his intent of having others to do it was certainly there. Little did she know he was fully capable of being a part.
Hey, we don't need to announce. This ain't an airport. You don't got to announce your departure. Okay. Did you announce your arrival? I'm just playing. Everybody, this is lies. I'm leaving. Okay. Well, have a nice night. I hope you sleep well. Okay. But this ain't an airport. All right. Just to let you know. If you didn't say, hey, I'm here when you came in, you ain't gotta, you ain't gotta tell us when you're leaving. I'm just picking on you, Missy. Have a good one.
Participant. Chris Luttrell, a Wiccan
Don't miss
and a
your
friend
flight,
of
right?
Damien's, stated that Damien had planned to sacrifice the baby of another girlfriend, Dominique Tier, but decided against it due to getting a bigger government check due to his Social Security disability.
You
The
announced
murders
your
of
arrival.
Stevie, Christopher, and Michael, and the talk of sacrifice, it is important.
You said hi, but you didn't say I just landed. Okay, you didn't say that. I just unboarded. Okay, I'm just playing with you, Missy. Don't get mad. All right, we just have a difference opinion. Okay, you're evil, and I'm not. I'm playing. Hell, Satan.
That we address one of Damien Echols' greatest influences, Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, an occultist, practiced magic of sex, drugs, and sacrifice. Crowley was known to the occult and was fascinated by blood, torture, and sexual degradation. Here's a few statements Crowley made about child sacrifice.
Good. I'm just playing with you.
Just two highlights from the book Magic in Theory and Practice. He writes, for the highest spiritual working, one must accordingly choose that victim which contains the greatest and purest force. A male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence is the most satisfactory and suitable victim. He later goes on to state, but the bloody sacrifice, though more dangerous, is more efficacious, and for nearly all purposes, human sacrifice is the best. Now,
now that's the words of Crowley. Human sacrifice is the best, the youngest, the purest. If you can find a smart young kid that has pure blood, he is the best sacrifice because it gives you the most powers. Okay. And now there's a lot of people that believe this. And like I said, when people were talking about Fear and Loathing in Vegas and Brad Pitt releasing the adrenochrome stuff and talking about, tears of kids, they scare them and then they take the tears and then they make this adrenochrome out of it. Right. I believe a lot of things are leaked from some celebrities that may know about this stuff, but they don't take part in it. You see what I'm saying? Not all celebrities are taking part in evil. There's probably some good ones and there's probably some bad ones, but evil in our world is real. And I want people to understand that it's just as real as good, if not more real. And as this world gets crazier and crazier, we're seeing more evil every day. There's so much evil in this world that good people have to be good 24/7 just to combat the evil. That's true. I'm not making that up. Look around at the world you live in and tell me evil's not real. You can't.
Apologists claim that Crowley wasn't literally speaking of sacrificing children, but was referring to masturbation. However,
that didn't sound like nothing about what he just said to me. It sounded like he was talking about sacrificing kids. The younger, the better. The purer their blood, the more power he got. Right? But people will defend it however they want to defend what he wrote. But he was an evil man. And the Satanists today look at this dude like he's a god. Okay? So why do Satanist dudes look at him like he's the Church of Satan damn near worships this guy? Why? Because he was evil. That's why.
It was a claim that Damien would not dispute in trial while questioned by prosecutor Brent Davis. In trial, Davis asked Damien if he knew about Aleister Crowley. Damien answered that he knew of Crowley but knew very little about him. Davis told Damien that Crowley believed in human sacrifice, in which Damien responded that Crowley also believed he was a god.
Now, how would he know that unless he knew about Aleister Crowley? He also believed he was a god. Now, this is where it gets crazy. So they go in and do a cell search, right? And he's trying to deny he's a cultist or he's evil or he's satanic. He's trying to deny these things. So they go into his jail cell after he's been arrested. They find a paper where he writes, almost like a decoder ring. And he writes his name, his girlfriend's name, and he writes Aleister Crowley. They bring it into court. Okay. saying, well, you say you don't know about this man and you have no, no ties to this man, but why is your name, your child's name, and his name on this piece of paper? Because he's evil. All right.
An interesting response, since Damien claimed to know very little about him, and in one of his own writings, he claimed that when he drank blood, he felt like a god. Davis asked Damien if he knew that Crowley found children to be the best type of sacrifice. Damien agreed. Davis then presented him with a piece of paper with Damien's handwriting. On the paper was translated coded.
They say that Barbara Bush was kin to him. I'm not sure, but I have heard that. I don't know if that's internet rumor, folklore, or what, but I did hear Barbara Bush was kin to him. I don't know how that is, but I've heard that. Now, I don't know if that's true. I really don't, but I did hear that before.
Alphabets. On it was the name of his girlfriend, Dominique, his best friend, Jason, his infant son, Seth, and a man he claimed he knew very little of, but didn't know much about, Aleister Crowley. Davis asked Damien when he translated the coded names. Damien claimed it was before his arrest. Brent asked him if he was sure it wasn't while he was in jail, and Damien timidly responded that it might have been. Again, Damien continues to get called out on his lies. Davis asked Damien if he translated the alphabet codes while he was in jail.
No problem, Sweet Jones.
Meekly responded, "If you say so."
So he was basically writing this man's name while he was in jail. Okay, so, and now, like I said, he's out of prison and he's writing books himself on the occult. So, was he lying? Bloodline, Dolly. Now, I don't know if that was true about the Barbara Bush thing. I mean, I've heard it, but you know how the internet is. They say all kinds of crazy shit. They believe the Queen of England was a reptilian. Okay, now don't tell me I don't believe that one. Okay, I don't believe that one. Bloodline, there is something to the bloodline, though. Blue blood and kings and queens, the pure bloodline, things like there is something to it. Dolly, you said Aleister correctly. Okay, that's how I thought it was said. Aleister Crowley.
Damien would eventually admit that he translated the codes while he was in jail. Damien knew he was caught in a lie after being so arrogant just minutes before. The names Damien translated all had some importance in his life. Dominique was his girlfriend, Jason was his best friend, and Seth was his son. To have their names listed along with Crowley and to claim that he had no influence, it just didn't add up. Years later, in Life After Death, Damien would admit how influential Crowley was and still is in his life.
Yeah, I mean, when you get out and write a book, you can, you ain't going back to jail. They can't charge you twice for the same crimes. That's double jeopardy. So yeah, you can start to admit, I'm a Satanist. I'm into the occult. And that's what he did. Right. And so many people defend him, but you see what he's doing now. Right. And he didn't change any. He didn't change. That's for sure. His beliefs didn't change.
Crowley was heavily into black witchcraft and attempted to summon demons and other spirits. He didn't believe in God or Satan, but that didn't make his beliefs and actions any less disturbing or evil. Damien would go back and forth on the whole devil worshipping aspect, but he confirmed he was involved in demonology and believed in the power that blood had, especially when consumed.
I know.
Again, Damien said that he consumed blood and it made him feel like a god. He also claimed to be possessed by a spirit of a woman murdered by her husband. Interesting correlations for someone he knew of.
Because I think he was bisexual. I believe him and Jason Baldwin were like, they were messing around, because that's why they ended up, doing these sexual acts to these kids. Okay. Because they were already kind of like that anyway with each other. Because to me, he kind of reminds me of the dude from The Cure. All right. The way he sits and the way he carries himself really femme. Okay. I guess that's the word of 2024, the femme word, not metrosexual, right? But femme, he carries himself like a woman.
But didn't really know. On March 19th, 1994, Damien was convicted of 3 counts of capital murder and sentenced to die by lethal injection. In conclusion, Damien would create a self-fulfilled prophecy. In his progress report, Damien stated that he could be another Ted Bundy or Charles Manson. In the same report, he stated that he wanted to influence the world. At the end of Paradise Lost, the childhood murders at Robin Hood Hills, Damien said that at a young age, he knew people were going to know who he was. He enjoyed his newfound fame because he said even after he's dead, people would talk about him forever.
Mm-hmm.
He basked at the idea of parents telling their children stories about him as the West Memphis boogeyman.
We watched that clip of him saying that last night. Y'all remember that for everybody that was here last night, where he said that he always knew people would talk about him. He wouldn't change anything in his life, that people would know him as the West Memphis boogeyman. Kids would look under their bed for him at night. Like, I don't know, man. And when I see so many people say these guys are innocent, I was like, did y'all do any research into this? Like, or did y'all just watch Paradise Lost and go, okay, HBO is right? You know, there's 2 sides to every story, right? And the truth is somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think we're all smart enough to know that, right? That if you listen to one side of the story, you get one vision of it. But if you listen to the other side, you would go, holy shit. All right. Like you go, oh my God, why are these dudes out of prison? Just like me. That's how I feel about it. Because I didn't listen to one side of the story. I listened to the whole story. You know, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help you God. You can't listen to part of something, right? If 2 people are fighting and you pull one of them to the side and you go, what happened? Right? They're going to tell you a story. You go to the other person, they're going to tell you a completely different story. All right. And then you got to kind of put that together and you got to research both sides of it. And then you come to a conclusion. You don't watch a show on HBO and go, okay, they innocent. That ain't how it works. Okay. Because that show could be leading you down a path that is misleading, or they leave out what incriminates the people they want to look innocent. But when you put it all there and you put it all on the plate and you're looking at the plate, then you see it. Or just like he called it, a puzzle. You know, we may never see the whole puzzle, but the pieces that are thrown on the table, you start to see the picture. And it's a picture of evil, and it's a picture of child killers. It's a picture of people that shouldn't be free. It's a man that worshiped the devil as a kid. He worships the devil now. He was into this occult black magic then. He's into this occult black magic now, today. Not yesterday, today. All right. And that is sick. And these people shouldn't be free. And the people that did this, right, that helped them, you got to answer to your creator. Whoever your creator is, you're going to have to answer for your sins.
He relished the idea that children would fearfully look under their beds, thinking he might be under there. Damien loved the attention of the trial. He blew kisses at the parents of the murdered children and smirked, sneered, and licked his lips seductively at onlookers and the media.
But in his defense right there, he did blow kisses at him, but the lady did call him the F word, and she was screaming it. I mean, she was out there screaming. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember when he was walking into the court and he did like do what they're saying he did to the family? And then they started screaming. He started to engage. He looked right over at him and he was trying to, I don't know, like smirk at him, you know, like, ha, I killed your kid. What are you going to do? Like, I don't care. He didn't care if he lived or died. He was homicidal. He was suicidal, right? And he believed that he was going to meet his maker that he wanted to meet anyway from doing the crimes he did. He knew where he was going, and that's where he wants to go. Crazy as that is.
Patricia Liggett, Damien's aunt, recalled a time when he told her that the one thing he wanted more than anything in the world was to become famous. Well, Damien got his wish. He was covered by the media and a documentary series that highlighted his trial and aftermath to the entire world. He became famous, and not only did activists and a groupie wife fall at his feet, but so did celebrities, filmmakers, and musicians who invested their money to set him and his two other friends free. They spent possibly tens of millions of dollars to hire the same forensic experts who got O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony off of murder convictions. Damien has a following that could rival the cult status of Charles Manson. The difference? Damien was freed, while Manson, who also maintained his innocence, rotted for the rest of his days in captivity. In August of 2011, Val Price, Damien's original defense attorney, was asked if he thought his former client was innocent. Price squinted his eyes, shook his head, and said that it was hard to say. A very interesting statement coming from a man who defended him back in 1994. Today, Damien is living the American dream. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He recently wrote a book on magic. He has credits as a movie producer. At one time, he tattooed X's on groupies for a fee. He got to rub elbows with the likes of filmmakers Peter Jackson and musician Eddie Vedder, and that's just to name a few things. Christopher Byers, Stevie Branch, and Michael Moore don't get to live a dream. Their innocent blood eventually gave Damien the fame he always wanted. What could be more tragic than that? What could be more outrageous? Is that justice?
Okay, so we're not going to go so much over the Jason Baldwin. There wasn't really too much evidence on him. He didn't do a whole lot of speaking, even at the trial. He tried to, on Paradise Lost, he did a little bit of talking, but he wasn't like, they didn't go too much into him. Now, I will cover the rest of this tomorrow. We're going to be talking about some other things too, but it's getting late tonight and I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I do need to get some sleep, right? But just know, people, that evil is real in this world, and there are evil people in Hollywood and that are rich and famous, and they're spreading this evil like the plague. All right. So if you're a good soul, you got to be extra good, because there's so many evil people in this world. Now, I know a lot of people came in here thinking that they were innocent. Did this change anybody's mind when you heard some of the facts that Paradise Lost didn't go over? Did anybody's mind get changed tonight? If it just kind of changed your mind a little bit or got you thinking about it, press 1 in the chat room. Okay. Now, if you think they're still innocent, I want you to press 2. I just want to see where you guys are at. Thank you so much for your super sticker. And thank you guys for everybody that's been hitting the likes, coming in, hanging out with me. Mine right there. So right here, I see a lot of ones. People's minds were getting changed. Guilty. Right? What's up? Boom. Gwen still thinks they're innocent. Okay. Tammy still thinks they're innocent. But I see a lot of ones that came in here, and some of these people, when you hear the whole story, guilty, 1, it's horrific, guys. It's absolutely horrific. Right? So now you can go watch Paradise Lost and everything if you've been following this for years. But just remember, like I said, that there's 2 sides to every story. Of course, how many guilty people confess and say, I did it? Not many. They usually lie. And this guy was caught in a lot of lies. Jessie Misskelley was caught in a lot of lies. Jason Baldwin was caught in a bunch of lies, right? It's a new story to you. It's awesome. I'm glad I could bring you the story, because it touches on a lot of bases. It touches on some of the, what's going on in our world right now with these celebrities, Epstein, P. Diddy, the evil shit that's going on in Hollywood, this devil worshiping cult shit. And when you say it, it almost sounds comical, right? Oh, they're devil worshipers. People are like, whatever, right? But no, guys, this is real. This is just as real as people that love Jesus, that accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. People accept Satan the same way. Okay. And it's a lot of people. It ain't a little bit. Start doing research on the Church of Satan and how many churches they got and how many members of this church they got. It is in the thousands. There's a lot of evil in this world. So be safe, guys. Dolly loves you. Tell me what y'all think in the comments down below. Are the West Memphis Three innocent? Or did Dolly change your mind a little bit tonight? Wait till the video ends in the comment box down below. You guys let me know. And just know I love you, right? And when this world ends, I hope to see each and every one of you in heaven with me. All right. And these people, they won't be nowhere around us. All right. There's no evil. There's no evil there. All right. And that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. God loves you. Peace.